Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a little Tuesday night slate here, Nate, in the NBA. Just 4 games to choose from. In this one, we're going to be talking about that marquee matchup. The Dubs are in Phoenix taking on the Suns, two of the best teams in the West and the league to be expected this season. Do make sure to like and subscribe to that page. As I said, we're bringing you game videos each and every weekday of this regular season. Also bringing you our player props video that we have for you, staying hot to start this season as well there. Make sure you head to thelines.com as well. That's where we have all of our great written content for you guys all season long, as well as our great odds finder tool where you can go ahead and make sure you are shopping those NBA lines and player props to the best of your ability across those U.S. sportsbooks. Nate, let's get into that little 4-game slate we have tonight in the NBA.
Yeah, aside from that game you just mentioned, we got Pistons +5 at Wiz. We got the Mavericks -3.5 at the Pelicans. Some injury news to watch there. We will break that game for you in a separate video. And then the Clippers are -10 at Oklahoma City facing the Thunder. This game, Warriors open +3, picked up a little bit of steam, and it's +2.5 as we record here. And the total at 224.5. I mean, it's intriguing to try to take the over here, the way the Warriors have been playing thus far this season. I think we need a little bit more of a sample size with the Suns to know what kind of pace they're going to play at a nightly basis, though they've really been slowing it down. They have yet to go over, even though they went into overtime with the Blazers in their second game here. But for me, I lean towards the Warriors, who haven't been playing their best ball, but it's been a lot of mental lapses, as you often see with them with the turnovers. Not necessarily having the urgency as they come off a championship. A little bit of a hangover there. But last year, you saw with this team that they turned a corner against the Suns, December 3rd, and they beat them soundly. Then they beat them again, and they lost on March 30th without Curry. Jordan Poole still went off for 38, 9, and 7 with the shorthanded supporting cast around him. So the Suns, they might be favored right now because of how they just shut down the Clippers, but that's a team that's really struggling to figure things out in terms of rotation, in terms of fit, and ball movement to get threes. And the Suns are kind of a pack-it-in team that sells out. Doesn't necessarily guard the three-point line that well, but depends on variance, depends on guys not hitting those shots, but that's not going to work with the Warriors. And I do think CP3 is aging at this point. They're not going to be as ridiculously clutch as they were last year. It's a lot of Ayton and Booker, and Ayton, has to deal with Draymond now in this matchup. I would be a little concerned about him putting up big numbers. It's just a situation where I think I lean, when you get the champs at +120 here in a game that has their attention, I lean towards Golden State, because I think when they come to play and when they concentrate, that they should be favored, of course.
It feels like you're really saying that game against Denver was a lack of concentration. I mean, 3 games into the season, we don't have enough to go on to make any serious, proclamations here, right? Like, one game where they just got their asses handed to them for like 2 straight quarters against the Nugs, and they only lost by 5, but they were getting pounding for the end from the second quarter into most of the third until getting it closer. So all of that skews all the statistics. It's kind of what I was talking about in the Monday video as well, where you one bad game, anything like that. I mean, you look at Dallas right now; they're like a +65 net rating through like if you look at like a couple of different quarters over the court. Like, so it's all just a little bit silly right now. But what I do see for the Dubs that scares me, that I think you can take some sort of a little bit of not even with a grain of salt. You can take these stats and say this might be indicative of what's going to happen to them moving forward, is the struggles that Clay and Jordan Poole are having. I don't know. Jordan Poole just got $140 million, and I was kind of like, if anything, it seemed like the playoffs detracted from the money he was going to make. He was so hit or miss. He only got like 10 to 15 minutes a game in the finals because they couldn't trust him beyond, just being a random spark, not knowing if he was going to turn the ball over. Right now, he's a streaky shooter. Watching a couple of their games, it's not looking good. Steph, as we also talked about, is on a mission clearly after playing so poorly for most of last season and shooting below what his numbers are, which is why this year he's at 33, 5, and 4 in 33 minutes a game so far, shooting better than 5 for 12 from deep right now, which is just classic Steph. 5 for 12 is like what you look for from peak Steph. And if he's that 44% from three this year, that's great for them. Wiggs is Wiggs. I think Wiggins has shown he's going to be that player. But my main point here is the struggles that we saw at times from Clay and Poole in the playoffs seem to me to be the indication of what's going to happen this year. That's what's going on already. Poole with those shooting splits at 38% from the field, awful. 31 from deep, very bad for someone you need to be scoring from three, going 1 for 5 a game from there. Clay's 14 points a game in 23 minutes is pretty good from an efficiency standpoint, but his splits are also pretty bad. I mean, 38% or 34% from three for him is pretty good, but he's only getting those 23 minutes. That's reason for concern. They need his defense or the equivalent of it. If he's not on the floor, Wiggs is guarding bigger guys. It's going to be trouble for them. Wiseman's not someone that you trust. So my main point here is the way that they're turning the ball over, which is at an insane rate, giving up points off of turnovers, all this stuff is playing right into the hands of a Phoenix Suns team who is kind of just going about their business and just getting shit done. I know they lost to the Blazers. I think we both like the Blazers more than some of the numbers might be predicting for them right now. So not too big of a issue there for me for the Suns. I see them as a team right now that's coming out and playing a lot more just in their nature and sort of knows what they're about, has a very clear identity still, and is making mental errors and beating themselves. The last thing I would say is you mentioned the fourth quarter, and that's also where the Dubs are getting murdered right now is that fourth quarter. They have a minus 14 something net rating in the fourth quarter. Unshockingly, the Suns' 9th best net rating in the fourth quarter, and still some really good clutch time numbers. Obviously, it's not going to be as historic as it was for them in terms of clutch time numbers last season, but they're still in the top 10 in really all necessary, really crucial categories. Like I said, in that fourth quarter, whereas the Dubs have the fourth worst at minus 20, just to be very specific about what that is. So, look, the quarters where Steph is playing most of the quarter, which is the first and the third, they're have the best net rating of any of the quarters. In the second and fourth, where he's only playing about 6 minutes, 7 minutes each quarter, that their net rating goes plummeting. So it's clear that right now they're relying too much on him, and the Suns are just like a grinded out team that I think is ripe for a nice victory at home in this one.
How crazy is it that they're 20th in scoring right now, Phoenix, and they're getting 110 points per game? I mean, that's the modern NBA though. So I mean, 224 is not necessarily that high in this modern NBA. We just saw some scores here tonight. I mean, like Brooklyn and Memphis that went to 270. Both these teams can defend a little better than that, but when you have Steph Curry playing the way he has, I mean, what are his numbers through 3 games here? He hasn't missed at the free throw line, hitting 5.5 threes at 44%. He can bend a defense on his own and then get those other guys going. Unfortunately, no Dante DiVincenzo, because you would like to see those slashers playing off Steph against the Suns defense. But Golden State, besides the threes, they're second in 2-point shooting right now, 57%. Third most free throw attempts, which would help you slow it down and get to the over. Sure. I've kind of leaned towards that happening. That would saying we haven't seen the Suns have to come out of their shell defensively enough yet to really know whether a team can light them up for 120, and whether we can get them out of their shell offensively because the other team is playing with enough pace and scoring.
Yeah,
they haven't historically gone over these teams in their recent meetings, but I'm kind of intrigued by that. See if it maybe creeps down, or if you could tease it. I think the Warriors aren't going to lose by 6.5 or 7 here. Although, we have seen plenty of blowouts here early in the season. I think it's preach some caution here. This is an intriguing matchup, but let's see how they start to unfold here in the opening weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right on about that. I think there's some areas that you can still get some value. I do like the Suns in this game, like a pretty good amount. watch the defending champs completely surprise me. But that would be my prediction. I know you like the over, and that's where I would lean if I was going to bet the total. Like you said, I'd still sprinkle just a few units on it. To sort of contradict what you said a bit, they did play the Blazers the other day. They lost by 2, but they only gave up 106 or so points to the Blazers in that loss, despite Dame having 40 plus.
Yeah.
113. Yeah. So, 113, if they win and they give up 113 or just barely lose, you could still see that going potentially over, but that's right at where you want, right? So even with Dame's 40 plus, I could still see that. I would, like you said, caution with that total. I feel good about the way Phoenix is playing right now. That's why I feel pretty strongly about that bet. And despite what could happen with Steph, whose prop is at 26.5, and with 4 games to choose from, you might be seeing that one in our player props video. TBD, have to check it out. So that's all the time we have for you guys in this one. Want to make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday of this regular season. And until we see you next, happy betting.